The big update for New World's PTR is going live tomorrow, and my god, there are some massive updates, so let's go through the big hitters, shall we? So the summer update, it's called the Summer Medley for Event Game Update is what they're calling it. July PTR is what I'm possibly going to call it. Quick thing to note is that basically it's going live tomorrow, 5 p.m, so tomorrow afternoon if you're in the UK, tomorrow morning if you're probably in America. And the first thing they talk about here is the Summer Medley for Event. It sounds sort of quite similar to the winter event in that you're going to have to raise your reputation with the Maestro through quests. So it sounds like there's going to be a guy called the Maestro or girl, and this will net you special holiday rewards, right? So it sounds like it's going to be similar in that sense. Obviously the type of quests that you do and stuff like that are going to be different, but that's the gist of this, right? And then I'm not 100% sure how this is going to work, obviously, but you're going to get some musical instruments, which are the ones listed on the screen, and then you're going to be able to play like 31 songs. Look, until we actually get the PTR, it's hard to actually know what this is going to be like. Like, it's a little bit one thing seeing it written down, it's a completely different thing seeing it in action. But weirdly, and possibly importantly, in the short term you're going to be able to like perform music with people, and that will give you a buff. Like, it sounds weird saying it, but that is what it says here pretty much. And a couple of like the key buffs: gathering speed buff, gathering yield buff, and gathering luck. They all sound pretty good. Basically, you start performing, you initiate the performance, and then people can like join in, and they can toss you coin as a tip, like tossing a coin to a witcher, I guess. But this, as I said, it's one thing talking about this, we're going to have to see this one in game, but it sounds exciting and fun and different, so yeah, really nice to hear. Barnacles and Black Powder is the name of the new expedition that is coming, and it's going to be in Cutlass Keys, which makes sense. It's all like pirate themed and lost themed and that kind of thing. A key question is that it's only going to go mutated 2 weeks after launch, but there are 3 new mutations that are also going to be joining the rotation. Good. Then they also talk about the expedition group finder. Now, one important thing here, and we knew this was the case, is that they say brackets same world. To me, that's sort of setting up cross realm at some point. Now, it sounds like you'll be able to access the group finder from anywhere in the world, so in theory you may not have to even go to the dungeons anymore. Expeditions. The tool does allow you to set the team role, such as DPS, tank or healer. You can recruit on that. You can also set a minimum gear score and level. This level one, generally not important for the end game, but just in case. Then a key thing which I've never seen before, then inspect members to learn their average gear score, weapons and mastery levels. That's a fascinating one. I don't know how that's going to work, but that seems like it's going to be a new UI thing because you've never been able to inspect before. So yeah, the group find has been something we've needed for a long time. This is just going to make it so you're going to see less group spam in the chat and stuff like that. What difference is there between this and doing it in the chat? Probably just ease of use, basically, but still it's good to see. And then let's move on to one of the big ones, which is the expedition orb removal. So yeah, it's as simple as that. They're going to get rid of the expedition orb so you can just really go into them. For normal expeditions, it's 15 runs per day that you're going to be allowed to do. Now, it does say here 20 expedition runs for mutated per week. However, I think I saw on the forum that they were changing that to 25, so don't take this one for granted. It might get changed to 25. Now, what happens to your keys? Well, currently right now your normal expedition caches will roll from the sub bosses and the main boss found in that expedition, and grant 50% of the coin previously associated with buying that specific type of orb. So you're going to get half your money back if you bought it from the faction shop, basically, but you're going to get it from all of the bosses pretty much for the normal expeditions. You're going to basically open it like a chest, and it's going to just give you an item and some gold. Now, for the mutated, it's a little bit different. They're only going to give you loot from the final 4 bosses, and again 50% of what you would have got from the faction vendor. To me, that sort of suggests it might not be worth it. Like, I wouldn't now be stockpiling my mutated orbs. I actually don't think it's going to be all that worth. However, it's up to you. It's only half the gold cost really in the faction tokens maybe, so do what you want, it's your life. But at least now we know. Now, this one is a little bit weird, this loot rebalancing stuff. So they're getting rid of 80% of the coin generated from expeditions, which I understand, but they're putting it somewhere else, which I don't quite understand. But I guess it's a way that they can cap it, weirdly. So they're going to spread it out between coin drops from elite chests and darkness breaches. Now, I don't know what a darkness breach is. Maybe you guys can enlighten me. They mentioned darkness breaches a few times, so it sort of sounds like it's a new thing, but I'm not 100% sure. It could be related to the summer event, maybe. Who knows? Anyway, twice a day players can loot elite chests in the open world and complete minor or major darkness breaches to earn a bag of coins. Each bag contains 500 gold. So you go and loot an elite chest, you get 500 gold, which is going to make like elite chest runs it's sort of semi-viable. I might go and tag along just to try and loot one chest, but it sounds fun. Now, the next thing is what you get from the randomness of expeditions, like the loot. Basically, if you salvage any named item from an expedition, it's going to give you materia of that corresponding dungeon. So if you do Lazarus and you don't get Fury, or maybe you do get Fury and you salvage it, well then you'll get Lazarus materia. You will also get materia when you defeat the boss of that expedition. Now, just to clarify, materia is something you're going to then use to craft a legendary from that dungeon. Well, it might not be legendary, maybe it's going to be 590, who knows, but you're going to be able to then craft a named item from the dungeon if you didn't get that named item. So all the people who are looking for like Lazarus balls, for example, will be able to get it. The mutator loot shift, this is the whole section is basically saying they're going to give better loot at the lower levels just so that it feels a bit better to do the lower level ones. They wanted you to like get progression and get to the high level stuff, but they're going to just like spread out the loot. That's fine. I don't think anybody's too bothered about that. But you've probably seen the next one under that is absolutely massive for some people. Instance wars. Basically, they are putting wars in an instance that's not on the same server as the world, effectively making it so the servers won't lag when there is a war, and the wars will probably be less laggy as well. Like, overall, that sounds great for a couple of reasons, even though I don't personally do wars. One, the wars are going to be more fair, and two, a bit of me thinks that this is, again, something that we might see with Cross Realm, because if Outpost Rush goes on an instant server, which it may already be, but you know what I mean, then maybe it's a bit easy for another server to connect to that instance, and they can sort of talk like that. So I think this is a good testing ground basically for implementation in the wider game, but they're pretty confident they've got it solved. So well, that's just big news. This section here, they're talking about rebalancing perks. Basically, they're buffing a lot of perks to try and put them all on the same level. Now, they do talk about the dual stat change, which we know basically if you run like Dex and Int, the overall stats you're going to get are going to be stronger than just having Dex on one item and then Int on the other. That's fine. Well, we'll have to wait and see if that's fine. But another key thing here is that we've made a number of changes to the 50 threshold to encourage more splitting of stats. So what they're saying there is they've buffed the 50 attribute perk from, you know, your attributes going up in the hope that people will then go for like 50, 50, 200 instead of like 300, 200, if that makes sense. Maybe you'll now go 200, 200, 50, 50, something like that. My maths might not work out there, but you know what I mean. Very interesting idea. We'll have to wait and see how strong they are. This loot quality section is them just buffing the loot all across the board. You're going to just get more rare items a bit more easily. Fine. They're making the loot that you get from Gypsum Cast to be a little bit better. Again, fine. Then they actually talk about this perfect salvage. So if you salvage an item, you now have a chance of getting a perfect salvage, which will give you better stuff. So you can get research materials such as weapon scraps that can be used to gain crafting trade skill experience. That's really interesting. I'm sort of curious how strong that one will be, because I would quite like to level up weaponsmithing very easily if it wants to do that for me. Special orbs that can be converted into Gypsum Cast, which bypass the normal daily limit. This could be great for people behind with expertise. That one sounds really fascinating. I sort of feel like if you now do a dungeon before your expertise 600, you might literally get your expertise super high super quick. I sort of wish I could get like a fresh level 60 to test that, but I ain't going to do that with my life. Then you can get some materials to fabricate special items. Depends what the special items are, I guess. Other valuable resources. Very vague, but I like it. Okay, trade skills. This is going to be controversial because some of you will be like, but I spent loads of gold and I spent loads of effort to get my trade skills up, and why are they making it easier now? I personally wouldn't stress about that too much. Like, it's just sort of like a catch-up mechanic. If it was hard in the first place, then it's just the way it was. It should have been better, like, from the start. A lot of people who got in early, you know, maximized in other areas. It is what it is. And also crafting and stuff like that was way easier at the start of the game's launch. Anyway, logging is going to be made way easier, basically. Refining for leatherworking, smelting, weaving, woodworking, and stone cutting, all made easier of different degrees. Crafting not getting made easier across the board. Obviously, one thing that is happening is that the refining ingredients, like the tier 4 versions of them, are being made the tier 5 version of them. So any flux is going to become like obsidian flux basically going forward, and you'll be able to convert what you have into obsidian flux. But basically, you're going to get more trade skill XP from tier 4 and tier 5 crafted for all skills. So they are making all skills a little bit easier. But the amount of XP required for furnishing is going down by 20%, and for weaponsmithing. And it says furnishing here, but it says not in this build. So I'm presuming they're just saying here weaponsmithing is also going down. Now, this next one has been mentioned before, but they've rebalanced the drop chances and locations on all trade skill clothing to better improve their availability. So some people were saying, oh, I don't think the weaponsmith pants were going to be affected. Well, it sounds like they are going to be affected. It sounds like they're going to be easier to get. Now, while that is the major changes, let me just go through the patch notes on the forum to show you how much of this stuff there actually is. Like, there is a lot of stuff, and there's no way on hell I'm going to try and cover that in this video. There is absolutely just too much. But again, what I'm going to do is just go through and see if we can pick out any of the key like points that you probably need to know right now. Like, I'm literally still going, how crazy is that? Anyway, it's massive. That's what she said. There's loads of stuff that might be super important balance wise that I just don't know. It's too easy to get overwhelmed at the minute. For example, removed 1 second mana regeneration delay that triggers when your mana is consumed. Like, could that really buff mages? Maybe. Quick little one here. Fixed desyncs that could occur after getting stunned. Good. Now, there are obviously changes to some weapons. The splinter shot, for example, for the bow is getting reworked into explosive arrow. The poison shot is getting slightly nerfed a little bit, but there's just a lot of this stuff for the weapons. So if you want to know your specific weapons are getting like buffed or nerfed or whatever, come in and have a read of this. Like, it's way too long. Like, look at the hatchet, for example. It's too long for me to read in this video. Now, this is quite a big one. Basically, they're changing the way that you get your free consumables from Arena. They're not going to give you free consumables like in your bag anymore. What they're going to do is let you use your own consumables, but they're going to give you an infinite amount of them. So if you have like, you know, the con food in your bar, for example, you're going to use it, but it's not actually going to take away your con food. Now, that's sort of good because it means you now won't have to drag it from your inventory every time, and then it'll mess up your inventory and your bar space and all that kind of stuff. So this is a good change, I think. But there is one bit that I was a bit concerned about. There will not be a limit to how many consumables you can use or how many types of consumables you can use. That basically sounds like you are going to be able to use like dust and ult baton, for example. So pretty important change out there for you hardcore PvPers in Arena, if that's right. But one reason they did this is so that now if you want to use like Dex and con food or something like that, you actually will be able to now. That's good. Again, here they mentioned these like minor darkness breaches and major darkness breaches. I'm still not 100% sure what they are. Maybe it's explained in this, but there's so much that maybe I've missed it. So it sounds like the mutated orbs, for example, are actually going to give you 1,250 shards. So it might be worth, if you really want some umbral shards without running the dungeons, maybe it's worth getting your orbs, if I'm understanding that correctly, which I think I am. So I said before it might not be worth it, but actually looking at the umbral shards, I think it might be if you just want that without running the dungeon. Because right now that would maybe be a great thing to do if you're like gear score 600 without being expertise 625, if that makes sense. A little one to note here is that the hidden stashes are going away temporarily whilst they have the summer medley for basically having its version of it with the diamond gypsum, and you'll be gathering that from the town centre pieces, very similar to the Christmas trees. Now, they're doing something called added territory supplies, which basically sounds like a way of crafting something that will get your territory standing up very quickly. And it sort of sounds like, considering it used like corrupted fragments, stone and wood, that maybe it's a replacement for the expedition orbs from like stone cutting. So we'll have to wait and see, but that sounds like it might be real useful for people who really want to grind up the territory standing, which I don't. Now, this one's only small, but it is important for the market depending on what you're doing right now. There'll be a small amount of you out there will be like, oh my god, I really need to act on this. But basically they are doubling the amount of ammo received when crafting shot and arrows from 50 to 100. Basically the value of them are now going to drop because it's going to be easier to craft. So if you're randomly stockpiling them, probably sell now. I'm going to stop there for now. There's so many changes that if I've missed anything important, please do put a comment below and I'll maybe like make a pinned comment if I have missed anything important. There's just so much there that I can't wait to get my hands on it with the actual PTR, which will be tomorrow, and then we'll start looking in the weeds to like what's the actual best way of maybe making gold or progressing our character as quickly as possible kind of thing. But yeah, very exciting news. I think the instance wars is really one of the big ones. Everything else we sort of like knew about, but it's nice to see. But yeah, like so many changes, like that arena consumable change I think is probably positive, but it does mean that we might need to make space on our bars for gemstone dust and stuff like that. So fascinating, and it's going to be an interesting couple of days, I think. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.